Rain slammed hard against the windshield as Nathan gripped the steering wheel with both hands, his knuckles white. In the passenger seat, an old woman named Mrs. Elsie trembled under a soaked shawl, her breath shallow. The hospital sign blinked faintly in the distance, like a lighthouse in a storm. "I can't breathe," she wheezed. Nathan pulled over right at the ER entrance, leapt out of the truck, and opened her door. "Hang on, ma'am. We're almost there." But just as he reached for her, she grabbed his arm. Tell Sarah I'm sorry." "Who's Sarah?" But Elsie didn't answer. Her hand dropped. Nurses rushed out, shouting for a gurney. Nathan stood frozen in the rain, not realizing that the woman he just saved was connected to a fortune, and a granddaughter who was about to turn his world upside down. 1 week earlier, the build-up begins. Nathan Hill, 27, was used to hard days. His life in a small Tennessee town hadn't exactly gone according to plan. He worked double shifts at a dusty gas station, picked up odd jobs fixing people's roofs, and dreamed of saving enough to open his own car repair shop. But today felt heavier than most. His rent was overdue, his dog hadn't eaten in 2 days, and the beat-up pickup truck he relied on was making that strange knocking sound again. He was locking up the gas station for the night when he saw her, an old woman struggling with a walker in the rain. She was trying to carry a paper bag, but the bottom gave out, and cans scattered across the sidewalk. "Ma'am, let me help you." Nathan jogged over, scooping up the cans. The woman looked up, her eyes tired but kind. "Oh, thank you, son. I didn't mean to be a bother." "You're not a bother." He handed her the items and helped her to a bench under the overhang. "Name's Elsie. I was on my way to the bus stop, but I think I missed it. I need to get to St. John's Hospital." Nathan hesitated. It was a 40-minute drive, and gas wasn't cheap. But something about her made him say, "I'll take you." Low moment, Nathan's conflict. As they drove through backroads, Nathan's thoughts raced. He had only $18 in his bank account. The truck was already low on fuel. But Mrs. Elsie was coughing, her hands shaking. She noticed his silence. "I'm not dying yet, you know," she said with a smile. Nathan chuckled. "I hope not. I don't want to be famous for giving an old lady her last ride." She laughed, then wheezed. "You've got a kind heart, Nathan. Not many do." They talked the rest of the way. About her life in Georgia, how her only granddaughter had moved away and rarely called. How she used to be a schoolteacher. How she baked the best pecan pie in 3 counties. When they arrived at the hospital, Elsie clutched his arm again. "Please, don't leave. Ma'am. I'm scared. I don't want to be alone in there." Nathan looked around. No family. No friends. Just a frail old woman asking a stranger to stay. He stayed. High moment, a mysterious visitor. It was late when Nathan dozed off in the waiting room chair. A nurse tapped his shoulder. "She's stable, but her blood pressure spiked. She asked for you." When Nathan entered her room, he found her asleep, but not alone. A young woman in a tailored coat stood by the window, her arms crossed, face unreadable. "You're Nathan?" she asked. "Yeah. And you are?" "Sarah Montgomery. Her granddaughter." Nathan's eyebrows shot up. "Oh. She didn't think you'd come." "She called," Sarah said, her voice clipped. "I was in New York. Flew down as soon as I could." There was a long pause. "Why are you still here?" Sarah asked. "She asked me to stay." "She's not your responsibility." "I didn't do it for that. I did it because it was right." Sarah gave him a look that was hard to read. Then she turned back to her phone. Low moment, accusations fly. The next morning, 2 men in suits arrived in Elsie's room. Lawyers. They said she had signed some papers, and a Mr. Nathan Hill had been mentioned in them. Sarah's eyes flared. What? I didn't ask for anything, Nathan said quickly. I swear. Sarah didn't answer. She just stared at him, hard. Later, as Nathan stood outside the hospital, wondering if he should just leave, Sarah stormed out after him. What are you playing at? She asked. Nothing. I don't even know what's going on. She barely knew you a week ago, and now she's mentioning your name to her attorneys? That doesn't happen by accident. Nathan took a step back. Look, I don't want anything from her. I helped her because I could. That's all. Sarah didn't speak, but her eyes were searching his face for any sign of a lie. Finally, she said something that chilled him to the bone. You don't even know who she is, do you? I know she's kind. She's the widow of Arthur Montgomery. Nathan blinked. Who's that? She's worth $14 million. Cliffhanger ending, secrets uncovered. Before Nathan could reply, his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He picked up. Hello. A deep voice said, You don't know what you've gotten yourself into. Walk away now. Or you'll regret it. The line went dead. Nathan stood there, stunned, his heart thudding in his chest. He had just done a favor for a sweet old woman. And now? He was in the middle of something way bigger than he ever imagined. Low moment, the fear sets in. Nathan stood frozen outside the hospital, the phone still pressed to his ear even though the call had ended. The voice had been calm, too calm. Like someone used to making threats. His heart raced. He quickly scanned the parking lot, eyes darting between cars, shadows, the flicker of streetlights. Was someone watching him? Walk away now, or you'll regret it. Why? Because he helped an old woman. What was going on? Behind him, the hospital doors slid open. Sarah walked out again, her phone in one hand and car keys in the other. She spotted him still standing there, pale. You okay? Nathan didn't answer at first. Should he tell her? Would she even believe him? Just, tired, I guess, he said instead. She nodded. Good. Because I need to talk to you. High moment, an unexpected offer. They sat in the diner across the street, red vinyl booths and buzzing neon lights surrounding them. Nathan barely touched his coffee. Sarah, on the other hand, looked completely in control, like someone who had sat across dozens of boardrooms and made bigger decisions before breakfast. I want you to come with me tomorrow, she said. Where? To my grandmother's house. Nathan raised an eyebrow. Why? She keeps asking about you. I think you should see where she lives. You deserve to understand what you walked into. He almost said no. But curiosity got the better of him. Low moment, the mansion with secrets. The next day, Sarah picked him up in a sleek black Mercedes and drove him through winding country roads until they pulled up to what could only be described as a mansion. A white-pillared estate with a long, cobbled driveway, trimmed hedges, and a huge fountain out front. Nathan stepped out slowly. She lives here. She owns this and 4 other properties. As they walked through the front door, Nathan was hit by the smell of polished wood and expensive flowers. Paintings lined the walls, one of them looked like it could pay off his student loans 10 times over. I still don't get it, he whispered. Why me? Neither do I, Sarah replied. They stepped into a sunroom at the back, where Mrs. Elsie sat in a large armchair, wrapped in a blanket. Her eyes lit up when she saw Nathan. My sweet boy, she whispered. You came. High moment, the truth begins to unfold. Sarah watched as her grandmother held Nathan's hand tightly. There was something strange in the air, an emotional connection that even she didn't fully understand. I never told you this, Elsie began slowly. But once, a long time ago. I was just like you. Nathan blinked. What do you mean? I was poor. Dirt poor. Before Arthur came along. I used to walk everywhere, work 3 jobs. No one ever did me a favor without asking for something in return. She touched Nathan's face gently. You reminded me of who I used to be. That's why I wanted you in my will. Sarah stood up straight. Grandma, you can't just. I can do whatever I want, Elsie interrupted, her voice sharp. I don't have much time left. And I won't waste it surrounded by people who only see dollar signs. Nathan felt like the air had been knocked out of him. Wait, you put me in your will. Elsie nodded slowly. Not for the money. For the garage. He blinked. What garage? She smiled. You'll see. Low moment, someone is watching. That night, Nathan couldn't sleep. He returned to his small rented room behind the gas station, heart still pounding. He didn't want to be in anyone's will. He just wanted his life back, simple, predictable, poor as it was. Then he saw it. A shadow outside his window. He leapt up, pulled the curtains, but the figure was gone. In its place, taped to the window, was a piece of paper. Scrawled in sharp, angry writing. His chest tightened. Who was doing this? Sarah? One of the lawyers? Someone in the family? He picked up his phone and called the hospital. She checked herself out, the nurse said. Left a few hours ago. Nathan jumped to his feet. Where did she go? The nurse paused. Said she was going to settle something. High moment, a garage, a key, a mystery. The next morning, Nathan was back at the mansion. Sarah met him at the door. She's not here, Sarah said. What do you mean she's not here? She left a note. Sarah handed it to him. It read. Nathan, if you're reading this, I'm probably gone. Go to 1054 Pepper Ridge. Use the silver key I gave you. Trust your heart. Don't let fear win. Elsie. Nathan pulled out the key from his pocket. He hadn't even noticed her slip it to him yesterday. Sarah looked shaken. That address, it's outside town. My grandfather's old garage. He restored vintage cars there. No one's been in it for over a decade. Nathan turned toward his truck. I'm going. I'm coming with you, Sarah said firmly. Cliffhanger ending, a shocking discovery. They reached 1054 Pepper Ridge at sunset. The place was almost hidden behind overgrown trees and rusted fences. The building looked abandoned, covered in vines and dust. Nathan walked to the door and inserted the key. It clicked. Inside, the air was heavy with age. Tools lined the walls. An old Mustang sat under a tarp. Files, papers, and photos were scattered everywhere. But one thing caught his eye. A large safe in the corner, marked with his name, Nathan Hill, painted in red. Sarah's voice trembled. What the hell? Nathan looked at her, then stepped closer. He turned the knob. Click. The door creaked open. Inside was a photograph of a young woman holding a baby. On the back, in Elsie's handwriting, were 6 words. Sarah never told you, did she? Nathan stared at the photo. The woman looked like his mother. The baby? It was him. His hands shook. He turned to Sarah, whose face had gone pale. What is this? But she didn't answer. She looked just as shocked as he was. Low moment, everything Nathan knew was a lie. Nathan's legs went weak. He stared at the photo again. The baby was him. He recognized the tiny scar on the bridge of the nose, one he got before he could even walk, his mom used to say. And the woman holding him, she had the same eyes. Same smile. His mom. Sarah stumbled back, her breath caught in her throat. That's not possible. Nathan turned to her, confusion burning behind his eyes. You knew my mother? I don't know what this means, she stammered, stepping away like the walls were closing in. But Nathan wasn't buying it. You said you didn't know why your grandmother mentioned me. That you'd never heard of me. But this photo, this was in a safe, with my name on it. Sarah clenched her jaw. That garage was locked for over 10 years. I was a teenager the last time I stepped in here. Nathan looked down at the photo again. His chest felt tight. Why would your grandmother keep this from you? Sarah didn't answer. She just turned away, pacing now, shaking her head. This doesn't make sense. My mom, her daughter, never had siblings. At least, I thought. Nathan looked up slowly. You think we're related? Sarah froze. High moment, a confession from the past. They searched through the dusty office next to the garage. Old files. Photo albums. Receipts from the 80s. And then, tucked inside a weathered diary, Nathan found it. A letter. Dated 1997. Written by Arthur Montgomery, Elsie's late husband. Elsie, I know you didn't want to talk about her, but we can't just pretend like she never existed. What we did, what you did, was cruel. That boy deserves to know the truth one day. I've kept the photo safe. I've kept the records. But if we take this to our graves, we've failed as humans, not just parents. Arthur. Nathan read the letter aloud. Sarah was pale. She had another child. Nathan's voice was dry. My mother. She must have been disowned, Sarah whispered. But why? Nathan's voice cracked. Why would you cut your own daughter off and hide the truth like this? Suddenly, Sarah stood tall, her tone changing. We need answers. From her. She's missing. Then we find her. Low moment, the man in the hat. They left the garage and drove back into town. But just before they reached the city limits, Nathan's headlights caught something on the road. A man. Standing in the middle of the lane. Wearing a long black coat and a wide-brimmed hat. Nathan slammed the brakes. Tires screeched. But the man didn't flinch. Sarah gasped. Is he crazy? Nathan jumped out of the truck. Hey. You okay? The man didn't move. His head tilted slightly. Turn around. What? You're digging where no one asked you to dig, the man said, his voice low and cold. Old roots rot for a reason. Nathan's stomach dropped. Are you the one who called me? The man didn't answer. Sarah pulled Nathan's arm. Let's go. Now. The man slowly walked past them, vanishing into the trees beside the road. Nathan watched the darkness swallow him. What was that? Sarah whispered. I think someone doesn't want us learning the truth. High moment, a hospital room and an empty bed. The next morning, Nathan and Sarah rushed back to the hospital. The front desk nurse gave them a strange look. Mrs. Elsie checked herself out 2 days ago. We know, Nathan said. We're trying to find her. Well, someone saw her last night. Nathan froze. Last night? Where? She was in the chapel. Alone. Crying. Said something about making peace with the past. They ran to the hospital's chapel. It was empty. But on the pew near the front sat a folded piece of paper. Nathan opened it. It read. I had no choice. They gave me none. I never stopped loving her. I never stopped looking for you. But they made me believe I'd lose everything. Please, Nathan. Forgive me. Grandma Elsie. Tears stung Nathan's eyes. She knew, he whispered. She knew who I was this whole time. Sarah sat down beside him, her voice soft now. She never told anyone. Not even me. Low moment, the will is read. 2 days later, Nathan got a call from the Montgomery family lawyer. The will is being read today. Elsie didn't have long after that letter. She passed away early this morning. Nathan froze. His throat tightened. Sarah sat beside him. She heard the words too. They drove to the attorney's office in silence. Inside, tension was thick. Several well-dressed family members filled the room, their faces hard, expressions unreadable. The lawyer stood. I'll make this quick. Elsie had left her estate in parts. To Sarah, the mansion. To 2 cousins, vacation homes. To a local church, her jewelry. To a children's charity, a large donation. And then. To Nathan Hill, my husband's garage, $100,000 in startup capital, and a sealed envelope to be opened privately. Gasps filled the room. A heavy silence followed. One man stood up. Who the hell is Nathan Hill? Sarah placed her hand on Nathan's arm. Her grandson. No, he's not. She didn't have. She did, Sarah said calmly. She just didn't tell you. Cliffhanger ending, what's inside the envelope? Later, in private, Nathan sat across from the lawyer who handed him the sealed envelope. His hands shook. He broke the wax seal and opened it. Inside was a handwritten note. And a second photo. The note read. Nathan, if you're reading this, then I'm gone. But I need you to know, what was taken from us wasn't fair. I wanted to raise you. I begged. But Arthur said no. He said our name meant more than blood. I chose survival. I never stopped loving your mother. She died still believing I had abandoned her. I hope one day you can forgive me. Grandma. Nathan wiped his eyes and looked at the photo. It showed Elsie, younger, holding his mother. They were smiling. On the back, another note. She named you Nathaniel, after my father. My first gift to her. And now to you. Nathan clutched the photo to his chest. But there was more. Folded inside the envelope was a faded, yellowed birth certificate. His mother's. And under Mother, it read. Elsie Montgomery. Low moment, the will sparks war. Nathan barely had time to process the truth before the vultures started circling. Within hours of the will reading, word had spread like wildfire. News outlets picked it up. Heir emerges from nowhere in the Montgomery estate. Secret grandson leaves family in chaos. Nathan couldn't even go to the grocery store without whispers. Strangers stared. Reporters camped outside his job. Some smiled. Most didn't. But the worst part? The people who shared his blood, at least, in name, weren't done. A knock came on his door that night. When he opened it, he found a man with a tight jaw and expensive shoes. Mr. Hill, the man said coldly. I represent the Montgomery Trust. I've been sent to encourage you to walk away. Nathan stared. Walk away from what? From the garage. From the money. From the name. Nathan shook his head slowly. You don't scare me. The man's face twitched, like he wasn't used to being told no. He reached into his coat pocket. Nathan tensed. But the man simply handed him a letter and walked away. Nathan opened it. Inside were 6 words typed in bold. We buried your mother for a reason. High moment, the DNA test. Sarah, meanwhile, wasn't hiding. She walked into Nathan's garage the next morning holding a small white box. I had it overnight, she said. Nathan blinked. What is it? A DNA test. I want to know if we're really family. Nathan sighed. You don't believe your grandmother? I believe her, she said. I just want to prove it. To everyone else. To myself. If you're my cousin, I want to stand beside you. Not behind you. He stared at her. She meant it. They took the test together. 2 days later, the results came in. 99.9% match. First cousins. Sarah laughed through her tears. I have a cousin. Nathan smiled faintly. I've never had family. They sat on the garage steps afterward, watching the sunset. For a moment, things felt okay. But only for a moment. Low moment, the garage burns. That night, Nathan's world caught fire, literally. The Montgomery garage, the last thing his grandmother gave him, went up in flames at 3:17 a.m. By the time the fire department arrived, it was gone. Nathan stood in the street barefoot, choking on smoke, his chest heaving. Someone had broken the windows. Started the fire from the inside. Arson, the fire chief said. Deliberate. Nathan's eyes burned, not from the smoke. From rage. From heartbreak. Everything was ash. Everything but the safe. Fireproof and blackened, it sat among the rubble, its edges scorched. Inside. A ledger. Dates. Names. Payments. Secrets. At the top of the first page, in Elsie's handwriting. The price of silence. High moment, a secret family crime. Nathan and Sarah stayed up all night reading through the ledger. It held 30 years of secrets. Quiet payoffs. Bribes. Even hush money paid to a young woman, Nathan's mother. This is why she left, Sarah whispered. They paid her off. To disappear. Nathan's voice was raw. No, they didn't just pay her off. They threatened her. This page says she was going to go public. About being Arthur Montgomery's daughter. He turned the page. There it was. $50,000, final payment. To cover up illegitimate child. Threat neutralized. Sarah covered her mouth in horror. Oh my God. They paid her to vanish, Nathan whispered. And when she didn't stay gone. Sarah finished the sentence for him. They made sure she did. Low moment, the tape. In the last pages of the ledger was a small black cassette tape. A label in Elsie's handwriting. Confession, for Nathan only. He stared at it. He had no cassette player. Until Sarah remembered, Grandma had an old stereo. In the attic. They found it. Plugged it in. The tape clicked. And Elsie's voice filled the room. Soft. Old. Tired. Nathan, if you're listening to this, I'm gone. I tried so many times to tell you in person. But when I saw your face that day in the truck, I couldn't ruin it with the truth. Your mother, Leanne, was my first child. I was young. Scared. I fell in love with someone my father didn't approve of. And when I refused to give her up, he gave me a choice. My family, or my baby. I chose the family. And I lived with that guilt every day. Arthur, your grandfather, he hated Leanne. She reminded him of my disobedience. When she came back asking for help, he paid her to go. And when that wasn't enough, he did something terrible. He made sure no one would ever find her again. Nathan, they told me she died in an accident. But it wasn't true. She was murdered. And it was covered up. Nathan pressed pause. His whole body was shaking. Sarah was crying. Cliffhanger ending, a knock at the door. The truth was out now. But it came with a price. And just as Nathan stood to take it all in, There was a loud knock at the door. Then another. Boom. 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 Sarah looked out the window. A black SUV. No license plate. 3 men in suits. Coming fast. Nathan turned to Sarah. Back door. Now. But it was too late. The front door exploded inward. And a voice shouted. Get down. He has the ledger. Low moment, the enforcers close in. Nathan's heart pounded in his chest as the door crashed open. 3 men in black suits stormed in, their faces cold and hardened, like they'd been through this 1,000 times. One of them had a gun, pointed straight at Nathan. Get down. Now, the man barked. Nathan's body reacted before his brain could process it. He dove for the ground, pulling Sarah with him. A second later, the men were inside the house, circling around them like predators closing in on their prey. We know about the ledger, the man with the gun said, his voice low but menacing. Hand it over. Nathan's mind raced. The ledger, the tape, it was all in his hands now. Elsie had left him the truth, but at a steep price. And now, those who had covered it up were here to collect. He glanced at Sarah. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with fear. She didn't deserve this. None of this was her fault. We don't have it, Nathan lied, hoping to buy some time. It's gone. The fire. The ledger's not gone, the man interrupted sharply. We know you have it. And we know you've listened to it. We've been tracking you, Nathan. You're in over your head now. Nathan felt the sweat on his palms. The gunman's eyes never left him. The leader of the men took a step forward, his face shadowed. Do yourself a favor, Hill. Hand it over now. Or we'll make sure your life is more difficult than you can imagine. High moment, a desperate escape. Just as the man raised his gun, there was a loud crash from the back of the house. Nathan looked up, startled. A second after, the back door burst open, and 2 more figures rushed in. One was a woman in a sleek black jacket. The other was a tall man, his face obscured by a cap. But Nathan could tell right away, they weren't the same as the men in suits. These 2 were on his side. Get down, the woman shouted as she threw herself in front of Nathan. The gunman took aim, but the woman was fast. She ducked, rolled across the floor, and shot a quick, sharp look at Nathan. We're getting out of here. Trust me. The tall man behind her reached into his jacket and pulled out a sleek black handgun. Move. Nathan barely had time to process what was happening before the woman grabbed his arm and yanked him toward the back door. Sarah was already behind them, her breathing shaky, but she followed without hesitation. The man fired a warning shot into the ceiling, causing the gunman to flinch. The second man from the front yelled for them to stop, but the woman and the man were already pulling Nathan and Sarah into the alley. As they sprinted down the narrow path, Nathan's mind swirled. Who were these people? And why were they helping him? Low moment, a hidden truth revealed. They stopped in a secluded alley behind the house. The woman and man quickly ushered them into an unmarked van that was parked a few streets away. It was like something out of a spy movie. Once they were inside, the man slammed the door shut and locked it. The woman took off her sunglasses, revealing piercing blue eyes. You're Nathan Hill, correct? Nathan nodded, still trying to catch his breath. Yeah, but We know, the man interrupted. We've been keeping an eye on you for a while. Your grandmother's will, the ledger, all of it. Sarah, still confused and scared, turned to the man. Who are you people? We're a part of a group, the woman said, her voice calm and professional. We've been working against the people who covered up your mother's murder for years. Nathan froze. You mean my mother? Yes, Nathan. Your mother was murdered, the man continued. And not by accident. It was deliberate. She knew something, and your grandfather and his associates wanted her silenced. Sarah's hand shot to her mouth. But why? Why would they do that? The woman's face darkened. Because your mother knew too much. She was involved in a dangerous web of financial corruption. Your family's name wasn't built on honest work, Nathan. It was built on secrets. On blackmail. On blood. Nathan stared at her, his mind still processing the sheer weight of the truth. So, my mother was part of that? The man nodded grimly. She was trying to expose them. That's why they made her disappear. But they didn't stop there. They kept tabs on Elsie, and when she started asking questions, they put pressure on her too. Nathan's heart ached as the pieces fell into place. His grandmother had never stopped caring about his mother. She had spent years trying to make up for what she had done. And now, in her final days, she had given Nathan everything he needed to finally uncover the truth. But what would it cost him? High moment, the final confrontation. The van's engine roared to life as they sped away from the scene. Nathan's thoughts were still racing, but something else weighed on him now, the feeling of being trapped. They couldn't run forever. We need to go back, Nathan said suddenly. I have to confront them. They can't just get away with this. The woman in the front seat shook her head. It's too dangerous. You don't know what they're capable of. I don't care, Nathan said, his voice steady but filled with determination. I'm going back. And I'm taking them down. The tall man glanced at him. You'll need our help. Nathan met his eyes, knowing this was no longer just about family secrets, it was about justice. Cliffhanger ending, the confrontation looms. The van screeched to a halt in front of a large, imposing building. Nathan's gut clenched as he looked up. The Montgomery estate. You're sure they're here? Sarah asked, her voice trembling. They're here, the woman replied, but you need to understand something, Nathan. Nathan turned to face her. What? The people you're about to confront aren't just rich businessmen and politicians. They're dangerous. And they won't stop until they've taken everything from you. Nathan's hands clenched into fists. Then I'll make sure they never get the chance. With that, they stepped out of the van, ready to face the final battle. And as they approached the door to the estate, Nathan could hear the faintest sound, footsteps, muffled, coming closer. They weren't alone. Please like, share, comment and subscribe.